Good afternoon. Welcome to Mega Tactical Concepts Facebook page. Today we're going to go to the range, and I'm going to introduce you to the range that we use. It's Putnam County Gun Club. And also I'm going to discuss some issues as it relates to advantages and disadvantages of the range and or force-on-force scenario work. My name is Paul Kerner. I'm co-owner and trainer for Mega Tactical Concepts. I hope you enjoy this video. Welcome to Eleanor, West Virginia, voted cleanest town in West Virginia. Putnam County Gun Club is in Eleanor Park. When you get to the back of the park, you'll bear to the right. And go down the gravel road. So here we are at the Putnam County Gun Club. As you can tell, hopefully by the video, the range is in use by the indicated in the sign to the right. It's a metal sign that rotates around. The other side is green, telling us that nobody's here. The Putnam County Gun Club is a private club. You must be a member to utilize it. These gates remain locked. Everyone entering and exiting must and do lock the gates unless there's a competition or an event of some sort going on. As we reach the range, to the left there is 3 pistol bays. To the right, there's the club sign-in building. Each of the 3 pistol bays has its cover and a firing line. The first one has a few steel targets at the back. Storage building. Also has a cover firing line. A few steel targets. These are a bit more movable, but they are pistol bay is about 50 yards. So it has a storage building. It has some barrels and gating. It has the cover for your weapons and a bench. It's about 50 yards again. It's also bunkered on either side so that you can do a little bit more movement, a little more active type training. After the 3 pistol bays, we have a very large pistol range. Nice covered decking and benches. To the right, almost across from the large pistol bay, have Buffalo Flats. In the Buffalo range, we have the corral. It has multiple steel targets, benches. This is the rifle range, 400-yard limit. So here we are at the Putnam County Gun Club, and I promised I would talk about advantages and disadvantages to a range compared to force-on-force reality-based scenario training. And so we're going to start with that. Again, my name is Paul Kerner, co-owner of Omega Tactical Concepts, instructor and training coordinator for Omega. And we're located in St. Albans, West Virginia, Walnut Street, 465 Walnut Street is where our training facility. And here we've taken a short tour of the Putnam County Gun Club. Hopefully it will give you insight on what they have to offer. Also, it is a private club, so I'd like to encourage you, if you're interested, to reach out to them, to one of the board members. You can find them online, also on Facebook, and reach out to them and consider being a member. The initial charge for a year is $150, $125 every year after. To me, that's a bargain. They have a good, clean range, good facility, very safe here. Rules and guidelines are enforced, and it helps ensure that everybody stays safe. All right, so as far as advantages and disadvantages of range work compared to force-on-force reality-based scenario training, really the pluses and the advantages and disadvantages really have to deal with why you own your weapons, what your use and purpose that you have for those weapons. Statistically, we have seen nationally in the United States that most gun owners, most people go out and purchase a weapon or have a weapon, do that in order to protect themselves, their family, or some innocent person. So when you think of it in the lines of that, so why are you going to the range and how are you training? However, statistically speaking, most people do buy them or get them for protection, either at home or out and about. But what do they train? And that's where you get into the advantages and disadvantages of a range. For instance, most people, when they come to a range, it's more of a sporting event. It's to increase their accuracy, their speed, their techniques, manipulation of their weapon system, and so forth. But most weapons owners, what they do, they train for sports, whether it is bullseye shooting or field shooting or rapid fire, clay targets, steel targets, the steel challenges, the running targets some places, the disappearing targets, the action shooting events, the 3-gun or multiple gun contest, the long range contest, precision rifle, bench rest competitions, and Western cowboy action and that type of thing. And this range particularly, they have a lot of those different contests here, and that's what a lot of the people train for. And when you get to training for those things, a range like this is awesome. And if that's what your goal and objective is to compete and or to get better at shooting in general, then that's exactly what you want to range for. It is, however, completely different than real life situations. So on the other hand, if you are looking to protect yourself or to protect your family or to protect the innocent people that you may unfortunately be in a position to do at some point in your life, then the range work is necessary, it's needed, it's an absolute, and I don't want to infer anything other than that. But the range is a square range. It is not a 360. There's no surprises. The targets, for the most part, stay still, and if they do move, you know they're going to move. As an example, the Texas Star, it moves. If you're not familiar with that, I encourage you to look it up so you know what I'm talking about. But there are tricks to shooting a Texas Star, and if you know those tricks, if you practice those tricks, it becomes easier and easier as you train with it and work with it. And you know, I'm not going to say that everybody can do that. There's people that probably will never be able to do a Texas Star, but the point is it becomes like a video game. It's repetitious, and as all training is, and you get better, and you're able to do that. But you know what it is. Just like when you go to a range for training, whether it is by yourself or you have someone come in or like a mega tactical concepts. You know, us, for example, when we bring people to the range, we dictate where you stand, where you go, how many rounds you shoot, when you don't shoot, when you holster your weapon, when you pull your weapon, how you manipulate your weapon, all the drills and so forth that we do. We tell you what to do, and so you're limited to those. If you're doing it by yourself, you decide all those things that we would have decided, what you're going to do, how you're going to shoot, how you're going to move, all those things, and the techniques that you may or may not learn as a result in that. But there's no what ifs really in the situation. It's all stagnant. It's all static. It's still targets, and if you move, they don't. You come around the corner of a barrel and you know where the target is before you get there because you see it beforehand. You may know or you may not know which of 15 targets you're going to shoot at because of an instructor or a friend tells you number 1, number 5, or whatever. You work those things, but you have an idea of what you're doing and where you're going. You know where they are and what they're doing, which is nothing most of the time. Let's talk a little bit about gun sports. Action shooting events, 3-gun shooting events, those type of shooting events where it is a lot of movement and changing guns in and out, reloading and unloading, movement and shooting. The biggest difference in what you do in those type of gun shooting events, and I'm going to walk back here to this fence in this area and kind of give you an idea. So have a design and a setup. We know what that design and setup is. There'll be fencing, no barrels, there'll be still targets, maybe paper targets like this. Now this is not one that was set up. This is just stuff that was left on the range. But the idea of it is that you start at a starting point, wherever it may be. It may be at this first yellow line on the gravel here, and you come up and you're required to go to certain points to shoot. When you do that in a sporting event, you go to that point and place, and you go to that shooting spot that will be the best advantage for you for your sporting event. So in the circumstances, you're going to have to shoot, or let's say you're going to have to shoot 5 of these targets or all of them. And so you're going to put yourself in a position that you're wide out in the open to all the targets so that you can see each and every one of these targets. The less movement, the better. That makes sense, right? So when it comes to these shooting events, that's what we tend to do when we get in reality situations. The issues or the disadvantages to doing this and training this way is very simply you're overexposing yourself. As an example, look at it a little different, and we'll go through this and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So with training for self-defense, things change a little bit, and we're here to the left of these barrels. We're pretending that it is a wall that comes all the way across, and obviously it is not, which is one of the disadvantages to range training. But so there is a target, however, that we cannot see to the right. Actually, there's one in about a half of target that we can't see. So we're going to assume that these barrels from our right to our left is a wall where we can't see the others, and we're going to go into this room or this area. So we're going to come around, and as we come around, we are going to slowly pursue the target of our first target. which will be the one we couldn't see. So we'll gradually come out, and there's footwork to where we can start seeing that target, minimize our exposure, and shoot that target or shoot that threat. As we come around, we're going to continue slowly going around until each one is exposed and we have a good shot for it, that particular target. Now this is great on the range to work with your own weapon system that you have and get used to this type of things, but the limitations of this kind of training is that those targets aren't moving anywhere. And even though we set them up and we know we're going to try to underexpose ourselves, we know what we're doing ahead of time. We know where they're at, and we know how to minimize ourselves to that point. Thus, the advantage of force-on-force scenario training, you're actually put in positions where people are moving around, and there's a bunch of people possibly in the room. So you have to be able to minimize your exposure, maximize their exposure one at a time. But I don't want you to get me wrong with gun sports. Gun sports are good. It's an awesome activity. It is very challenging. It is very thought-provoking, and there are some times I talked about concealment and underexposure and that type of thing and so forth in reality circumstances. And there are some of those gun sports that you do lean out over a fence or a wall or a barrel or what have you, and because of lines and so forth. And there's also the boxes that I talked about, or the entryways where you come in and you view as many targets as possible at once. And so my point is not to be detrimental to any of that, but to bring out advantages and disadvantages of how we train and what we do on the range and what we do in force-on-force scenario-based training, and the advantages and disadvantages. You may go to the range, and hopefully you do. You go to the range and you have your weapon system, which includes a good belt, a good holster, and a good concealment method, or open, whichever it is. We prefer concealed issues unless you're law enforcement. But you have to learn to access it as everything is going on, and then you have to understand what is going on. Maybe you shouldn't have drawn your weapon, maybe you should have. You have to be able to access it and be able to react appropriately with that, and that's going to be dictated and change based on what's going on, and it's very fluent in real life situations. So that's what force on force gives you, is the ability or the experience to deal with a very high stressful situation in the heat of a moment, second by second or millisecond by millisecond, in order to deal with a possible lethal situation in the correct fashion. It's very similar to what law enforcement deals with on a regular daily basis. And so range work, and to clear this up in order to finalize this, range work there's a lot of known variables to it. You know your weapons and how to manipulate them, or at least that's what you're going to be training. All good things. You should know your weapon. You should know how to manipulate it, from aiming to firing to reloading to fixing malfunctions to speed and accuracy. What you're shooting, how many times you're shooting, all these things are great. What angles you're going to shoot at. All these things are important things to work on, and you need to do that with the weapon system that you choose. Absolutely, you need to. Disadvantages, or the advantages of force-on-force scenario, realistic scenario training, is that you take those things that you learn on a range and you fit them in a real life situation, and in order to come out alive or protect your family or someone else. And that's what force on force is about. The negatives to force on force realistic scenario training is really the only ones that I can think of is a lot of times you're not able to use your weapon and your equipment, such as a holster and your belt or whatever. most force scenario companies like Omega Tactical, we provide your weapons and your ammunition and so forth, and it may or may not be the same as what you're utilizing and using every day, what you train on the range. However, the particularly for us, what we use is a Glock 17 converted for the non-lethal training ammunition. So if you own a Glock and you know how to use one, it's pretty easy. It is very similar to a lot of semi-automatic weapons, not quite exactly, but it's very similar. So it's real easy to learn if you've never used one. They're simple, they're easy. So that's the only real downfall that I can see in reality-based force-on-force training. What you will find in it is, if you ever participate in it, and I would encourage you to, that's one reason that my partner Bob Medford and I started our business, was to give people, law enforcement and responsible citizens, the chance to work in a reality-based force-on-force scenario training. And so I'd encourage you to, because you're going to be able to test all these skills that you have, and you'll be surprised. I don't care who you are, with the exception of maybe 2% of law enforcement military people who can go into a situation and not have very many problems. But it's a matter that you don't do it every day. And today, you don't have to be in a position where the first time you get involved in a lethal situation is your first time, because of realistic force-on-force scenario training like we provide. So I'd encourage you to check us out. Look at our videos on Facebook. We have we don't have a great deal, because every one of our trainings are real, or videos are real videos. They're training videos. They're not staged. They're bits and pieces of actual training going on. So please take an opportunity to look at those videos, and I want to encourage you also to like our page, go to our video section, and set your notification settings to be notified of all videos, because every Wednesday, as long as I can and as many times as I can, every Wednesday I'm going to post a video live or otherwise, and you'll be able to get a few tips here and there as it relates to gun manipulation and handling and movement and those kind of things. There's a lot to cover, and I'm going to try to make them short and sweet when I do get to that point, and we should be starting next Wednesday. Again, this is Paul Kerner with Omega Tactical Concepts. I want to tell you to have a great day. Please comment on our post anytime you feel free to comment on our post anytime that you want to. I do go back and I review them and respond as much as as quickly as I possibly can. And we want to hear from you. We want to know what kind of training you want, if the content that we are providing is appropriate, if it's usable for you. And I realize so far we've just introduced ourselves and the range and that type of thing, but we're going to start giving you some content on tips and so forth. So encourage you to follow along, encourage you to like our Facebook page, follow us, go into our video section and set your notifications to be notified of all videos, and so that you're assured that you'll be able to see our videos and our training tips. Thank you. You have a great day and blessed day.